Hello guys, it's BenImparts here, back at you with episode 22 of this Cryptid series, and today we've got a real treat. Not so much a treat in the friendly, wholesome sense like the duck-footed dum-dum or the cactus cat, but much more of an ominous treat, and we've got the Lusca. The Lusca is the name given to a gigantic sea monster reported from the Bahamas in the Caribbean. It's widely said that the Lusca is a huge, gigantic octopus, much larger than the larger known octopuses that exist. But how big, you might ask? The Lusca is said to grow over 75 feet long, or even 200 feet long. Some descriptions also mention it can change colour, a characteristic normally found in small octopuses. There's also a tradition in the traditional folklore of describing the Lusca as half shark, half octopus, and it's sometimes seen like this in certain settings. However, generally speaking, giant scuttles are used generically in the Bahamas, which is a local term for giant octopuses. One fisherman witness described his line being pulled by an animal with brown and black and brownish yellow spots. Another witness described the Lusca's colour as murkiest greyish-brownish. Some descriptions also say it has phosphorescent eyes. Most accounts, from the Bahamas, the Caicos and Cuba, say it's nocturnal, coming to the surface only at night, or when sick and dying. It's reportedly very dangerous to people, and it's greatly feared for pulling down boats and grabbing fishermen with its arms. Many creatures are said to be reported from the Blue Holes, off of Andros, an island in the Bahamas, although they're also said to exist in the Banana Holes, which are brackish inland pools usually connected to the sea underwater. On January 18th of 2011, in fact, the body of what appeared to be a giant octopus washed ashore on the Grand Bahama Island in the Bahamas. According to eyewitness reports, the remains seemed to represent only a portion of the head and mouth of the original creature. Based on their knowledge, local fishermen thought that the size of the creature, when living, was at least 20 or 30 feet. And sightings of similar giant octopuses have occurred throughout the Caribbean Sea and off Cuba, the Turks and Caicos Islands, Belize and Mexico too. Giant cephalopods have also been reported from the Turks and Caicos Islands, which are geologically and ecologically contiguous with the Bahamas. According to retired shark fisherman Joe Tully, fishermen in the Caicos refused to fish in the blue holes at night out of fear of giant squids or something which would pull them down. And shortly before his arrival, a squid had actually clambered aboard a fishing boat, prompting the men inside it to leap out and swim for shore. Possibly the first ever encounter with a giant Lusca in the Bahamas was reported in 1863 by the journalist Bénédicte Henri Revoil, who published his book Projet dans l'Amérique du Nord. Revoil claimed that an unnamed American captain in New York had told him that his ship was attacked by a kraken in the Luscas, now the Bahamas, dragging off 2 sailors. He claimed that an American captain, whom he knew well, told him that in 1936, at a landfall in the Luscas Islands, his ship had been attacked by a giant octopus, which, extending its gigantic arms, reached up and dragged 2 of the crew into the sea. That they tried to rescue the 2, that it was useless. However, they'd scored a partial victory because the chief helmsman had severed one of the arms of the polypus, and this huge, monstrous tentacle was 3.5 meters long and the size of a man. It was preserved at the time, but it's since decayed and it's unsure where the remains are today. In addition, during Forrest G. Wood's 1956 survey of Grand Bahama, the commissioner of the island, an Andros native, told him that what he called a giant scuttle had been seen when he was around 12 years old, around 1925. He, his father, and a companion were fishing in 600 feet of water, and they caught something on the hook through the clear water, and they saw that it was a large octopus clinging to the line. It detached itself from the hook and grabbed the bottom of the boat, before letting go and returning to deeper water. The commissioner didn't actually specify how large the octopus was, but he said that one thing was for sure, and that it was larger than any known contemporary species. In 2009, an Andros fisherman named Peter Douglas claimed he'd seen a giant tentacled animal while diving in a blue hole, which is meant to be very risky indeed. He claimed he was down at the bottom of the hole, and as he checked it out, it just came up off the bottom, and it was a murkish greyish-brown colour, and then behind it he saw a couple of tentacles rise above the bottom as it slowly turned and went back in. That it was at least 40 or 50 feet and absolutely huge. He claimed it didn't actually attack him or try to eat him, it just seemed more curious, but you can definitely imagine that it was absolutely terrifying. And another fisherman in 2009, Robert Timer, reported that he'd seen a Lusca looking like part of an octopus. And he was later talked to in 2015 again, in which he described a shark-headed animal with tentacles, which he allegedly saw while fishing in deep water off Andros. He claimed they were fishing for Dorado, and they claimed to come across this strange animal. They thought it was a white shark, but they found out it was actually a strange animal with tentacles and the head of a shark. The head was similar to that of a mako shark, and it had a real pointed nose, and the tentacles were the last thing they saw, and the whole thing was 80 feet. And he claimed it left such an impression he'd remember it until he died. So what is the Lusca? In my mind, it's clearly not people mistaking a genie, aka a jinn, aka a spirit. It's clearly a very real physical creature, and it has a very real chance of being found. Could it be a oversized regular octopus species? Yes. I think it's probably a gigantic octopus, judging from what people have said. I'm not sure about the shark part, because I'm not sure how a half shark, half octopus could come into being, but people know better than me, the locals, so maybe it could be that. My personal feeling, however, is that it is a giant octopus, and it's just waiting to be discovered. It can't be hidden away for much longer. I believe that, honestly, people will find it soon. But what do you guys think? Do you know anyone who's seen it? Anyone who knows of any sightings? Anyone who's passed down any sightings? Please leave that in the comments below. I look at all your suggestions and review them whenever I can, and stay tuned for episode 23.